son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. This week we have all your action for the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500 from Texas. I want to welcome you guys back for another week, and welcome back Jamie Liehr. It's so good to have you back with us, buddy, for some Texas action. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing great, man. You know what? It's so great to have you back, and it feels natural, but something's still a little off. Like, we're doing Texas, and we're not in our proper costume for Texas, are we? I think we need to go to it. Oh, yeah.
I guess this is what you're talking about?
Howdy, y'all. It's Texas two-step time for the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500. Stages are at laps 85, lap 170, and then we'll go the final 164 laps all the way to the finish.
Time to raise and rope the Broncos. Actually, fun fact, though, is that the stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas. That's right, weather should be cloudy and cool with temps in the low 50s when we go racing at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Well, Liehr, we had a qualifying debacle without you, and we have qualifying debacle part due with you. NASCAR changed the qualifying rules to make sure we didn't get a repeat of Fontana, and guess what, kids? This week we got a repeat of Fontana. Newman and several other cars should have been penalized this week, and Alex Bowman, who wrecked his car in the first session of qualifying, had to go to a backup car and didn't log a time in round 2, which, according to the new rules, should make him start from the rear of the field, not garnering a qualifying time, but NASCAR is waving off that new rule for some reason, and is still currently scoring him as qualifying 24th. He, however, is being sent to the rear of the field for the car change, but won't be scored that way unless something happens between now and race time tomorrow. Needless to say, this caused a cluster screw for qualifying, leaving several names from advancing in both round 1 and round 2, leaving a starting front 12 that makes you vomit in your mouth just a little bit. So instead of doing the normal order of the show, I think we're going to start off talking about the starting 12 that makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit. Liehr, let's kick it off with Jimmie Johnson, who's sitting on the pole, who hasn't been fast all season, but has somehow logged the fastest 10-lap average, the fastest 15-lap average, and the fastest 20-lap average in final practice. Is Jimmie Johnson in this Hendrick car for real this weekend, buddy?
Nice intro, brother. But, yeah, I wasn't completely ready for this rodeo, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you kind of have a sort of inclination how things are going to roll through the weekend, and I definitely was not seeing this from Jimmie Johnson. I mean, the 48 team is, and let's be honest, Hendrick in general has just been completely off all season. The Camaros haven't come back with the speed that, they started gaining there towards the mid and latter part of the year last year, and they just haven't found it yet. But here we are sitting in Texas, and pretty much Team Hendrick is all the way at the front, except for the Bowman losing control there in the turn. But should be interesting, man. I'm thinking Jimmie Johnson, especially with his history here. I mean, the guy's got 31 races. He's got 7 wins, over 1,000 laps led here, starting on the pole. I don't know. I mean, am I going to have exposure on him? Yeah, you definitely have to. I mean, even though he's, hasn't been performing well all season, that team's been showing speed all week, and you can't deny the fact either he's 8,000, which is going to be a huge salary saver for you when you're going to be rostering a lot of these big place differential guys too. So going to be an interesting week, brother, and it's going to be a lot of strategy this week for sure.
Right. Now, if you're like me and tend to lean on Jimmie Johnson possibly leading laps, I'm not seeing his teammate William Byron, who qualified second, leading any laps. I'm not seeing Chase, who had a great weekend last weekend, finishing second and qualified third. I'm not seeing him lead any laps, although he is the one Hendrick car that has actually done anything this whole season. I don't really care for the Suarez play in fourth. I'm laughing off Austin Dillon starting fifth. I think that is just crazy. Denny Hamlin starting 6th is pretty interesting to me, but Daniel Hemrick starting 7th is a no-go for me. How about you on those guys?
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you, brother. I don't know, one person that did, interest me a little bit is Daniel Suarez. Because with this whole qualifying debacle, I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if you saw, Clint Boyer was basically saying that he was reading the rule book right before qualifying was just getting ready to take place. So, he's basically stating that NASCAR is making up the rules kind of as we go, especially too with this Alex Bowman deal as well. So I don't know, man. I think it's interesting because I like it where multiple cars are qualifying at the same time, but this whole cat and mouse game that they're playing on pit road is pretty crazy. But Suarez kind of bucked the trend this week a little bit and was the first guy out there and basically ran his qualifying laps by himself and still had a pretty good qualifying round. So kind of, poo-pooing a little bit the idea that you have to go out there and race with the pack. But so to me, that means that Suarez has got a little bit of speed this weekend. But starting 4th, it's hard to pull the trigger on that. So, I mean, I'm pretty much right there with you in fading pretty much every single one of those guys.
The first guy I really start to get interested in, other than possibly Hamlin if I'm trying to swerve, is Logano starting 8th. But even that, man, he tends to fall backwards and not dominate. And I'm sorry, the Ty Dillon play at 9th is just unmakeable as well.
Even though that team has had a pretty darn good season this year so far, but I can't, no.
And Bubba Wallace starting 10th is also on the borderline of absurd. I mean, congrats for these teams getting nice qualifying runs in when other people weren't able to actually get their qualifying runs in. But I think what we're going to see is a lot of these cars go backwards and a lot of the other cars go forward, which is why we haven't done a burning rubber this week, because all of the big names start back in the field and they are all super expensive, which creates a conundrum for your lineup builds this week. You've got Rowdy Kyle Busch, who's the most expensive driver at $12,200. He won both the truck race and the Xfinity race this weekend. He's going for the trifecta at Texas, a place that he's already done the trifecta at. He starts 16th. That team hasn't shown a whole lot of speed. And what I mean by that team, JGR, other than the Hamlin car. But once again, when you count Kyle out, that's when Rowdy does your Rowdy style and dominates a race. But because of all these other place differential plays, when you start rostering these expensive guys, you are literally sacrificing other place differential plays. Let's just go ahead and let me plow through it, and then we'll get your opinion. But we have Keselowski starting 12th, who's $11,900. Martin Truex Jr. starting 20th, who's $11,300. Kevin Harvick starting 23rd, who's $10,700. Ryan Blaney starting 13th, $10,200. Kurt Busch starting 30th, who's $9,500. Kyle Larson starting 22nd, who's $9,200. Clint Boyer starting 25th, who's $8,400. And that's basically where I'm going to cut off this group of extremely great place differential plays and all guys that could be, if we're being honest, could dominate portions of this race. So how are you, Liehr, approaching these guys this weekend?
To me, I mean, you have to look at the season so far. You've got two guys that stars are shining bright, and that's Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. I mean, don't know about you, but I know to roll so I can apologize to everybody out there. Just had a family emergency last weekend, and it was something that we were totally not expecting, and ended up having to spend the whole weekend in the hospital. So everything came out good, though, and thank God. But as far as last week, I had no idea that Keselowski was just going to go out there and dominate like he did, starting from that third position. But, I mean, those two guys, you obviously have to have exposure on both of them because they're the two hottest drivers so far of the 2019 season. And it's something to where it's just, you got to do it. As far as the other guys, definitely love Kyle Larson this weekend. That team's been struggling, obviously, with Team Chevy in general. But this track serves him well. I definitely like what he's done so far this weekend, especially in the 15 to 20 lap averages, up there with Johnson and Kurt Busch and Kyle Larson, and definitely love Larson this weekend. So you got to get some room for Larson. I think this will be one of the tracks where his ownership percentage will be up there, which it'll be fine because I have a feeling he's just going to get up top there, get that PJ1 rolling, and I think he may have a chance to win this weekend. So definitely love me some Larson.
Yeah, I'm with you. The part that intrigues me that I'm really torn on is because of the salaries and because of all these guys' starting positions. I think Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick are going to be so under-owned this weekend. It's going to be crazy, and that bothers me.
For sure, brother, because, I mean, what the hell's been going on with Stewart Haas so far this season? Mm-hmm. I mean, they all look like they're just out of it, like disoriented, not really keeping up with what everybody else is doing with all these changes, and he's the one that's basically been suffering the most. I mean, he has not been close, remotely close, dominant as he has been in the past. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you can't sleep on Harvick this weekend, especially where he's starting from. But at the same time, that team hasn't been paying off really at all in 2019.
No, and we've seen a significant price reduction because of that to Kevin Harvick at only $10,700. That's super cheap for Harvick and probably the cheapest you may get to get him at the rest of the season if he does what he's supposed to, place differential-wise at least this weekend. But I'm with you. The cars have seemed off for the whole Stewart-Haas stable, except for when they have a car that's on, that car seems to have every error possible on pit road, making it so we can't even see if that car is capable of competing with the top big dogs on the week. And it kind of scares me. But, man, one of these races, they're going to break out. Now, they haven't really showed the times to think that Texas is going to be that race. But, heck, last weekend, we didn't see the times out of Chase Elliott to see that he was going to have a dominant performance and finish second. So, in the world of NASCAR, anything's possible. And if you're going to get Harvick sub-15 this week, that's crazy to me for his quality of driving. Even though they've been a little off, it might be an interesting swerve for GPPs. But, I don't know that I can do it, if I'm being honest.
No, I hear you. And, one that I think we definitely should talk about, too, is, don't forget about, in that same stable, Aric Amirola. He's actually, he's done fairly well this season. He hasn't obviously gone up to the front and dominated anything, but, he has been up there towards the front, had a great starting position last week and has been having decent finishes. And this week, he starts from the 21st position. He's only $8,400. And he was also top 5 in both the 15 and 20 lap averages. So I love me some Aric Amirola this week.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I just wish he was in that super sweet Shazam car he was in last week.
Yeah,
I'm not as crazy about the ride design this week as I was last week. Yeah. And I really wanted that car to go to Victory Lane so I could buy it and have a sweet die-cast of it. But I'll probably end up purchasing it anyway. But, that's how that die-cast collecting ends up getting you. Anybody else that you're interested in playing this week, Liehr? Like, are you interested in trying to make the Alex Bowman play, even though he's only being scored currently from 24th? Does that play intrigue you?
I mean, yes and no. Don't know what's been going on with Alex Bowman. He just hasn't been getting it done. And, I don't know, just watching him in qualifying and letting the back end get out from behind him and into the wall, and they're already in a backup car. I don't know. I just, even though he has a really sweet starting position at 24th, I'm going to have exposure on him for sure. But I think my head's in different areas as far as trying to save money. And I know $7,100 is, a decent amount there to save, but I don't know. I just like some of the other guys that are lower that I can save more money on, like a Matt Benedetto, starting from the 26th position, and he's $700 cheaper. Definitely like that route better than Bowman this weekend. He's been consistent from where he started at to where they've finished this year. And, a couple of the other guys too, maybe some front row guys. So,
well, I was thinking the exact same thing. What about playing any of the guys? They're going to be super low owned, but like the Newman starting 18th or Menard starting 14th, or even Buschert, he's a little higher priced than what we would want for the hold of position or maybe gain a couple positions. But Buscher's at his home track. He has a 15th place finisher before. He runs right around those 20s. but like I said, his salary is just a bit too high. Are you even interested in a Busher maybe on a hold his position strategy for points?
I like Chris Busher. Again, when you have the ability to race where your quote unquote home track is, you kind of you give it more than what you. It just means more to you, and I know that's a little high starting 19th, but Chris Busher has been pretty consistent so far in this 2019 season, and JTG's been doing well at giving him and Priest good equipment, and I like both of those guys. They've both been consistent as far as middle of the tier, low end salary saver guys, and you still gotta basically keep to them and keep having exposure on them until they do you wrong.
Yeah, I think he's going to be lower owned because of the higher salary, but it's a higher risk play. But
Yeah,
you need to know
but
that.
that's why I lean a little bit more towards the Priest play starting 27th, and you save $300. But Ryan Priest is been doing a pretty good job for AJ Allmendinger this year, and I obviously they're not a top 10 car, but could he sneak in there and get an early 20s, late teens finish? Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anybody in the super value saver range that you're looking at this weekend? Anybody that really interests you a whole lot? My favorite would be Ross Chastain starting 35th, but I think he's a little higher priced than what we want out of that kind of car at 5,600. So, do you have anybody to add to that?
You want to play Bubba Wallace 5,500?
No, dude, I don't know that I would want to play Bubba Wallace starting 25th at that price tag here. Like, it would make me think about it, but him starting 10th, that is the easiest fade of all time, in my opinion. I will have 0%.
Let's just think about this real quick. So, Bubba Wallace is going into his second year racing for Richard Petty Motorsports in the famous number 43. And that car has had multiple guys, in it. It's been a model of consistency. They haven't always been the most top tier guys, obviously, in top of the sport, but some decent names have put their rear ends in that seat, and I 5,500 for Bubba Wallace between Ross Chastain and Matt Tifft, and I do like Matt Tifft at $5,400. By the way, that guy's also been a good source of salary value this year.
And to be honest, the LaJoie play right next to it at starting 31st at 5,300 is also sneaky. But sometimes he ends up burning you. But all these guys do that. So,
Yeah. But what Bubba Wallace in that 43 has fallen to that basic bottom tier level. And it's sad to see, but, we need to see some more consistent results out of Bubba Wallace and that 43 team. Just expect a little bit better from them. So, but I like all those guys: Chastain, Tifft, LaJoie. Mix and matching them here and there, and that way too. That way you can get more of those place differential. I mean, Kurt Busch 30th. I mean, if there's a free square out there, that's just a no brainer with his history, his starting position, and his practice.
Well, right, the fact that he's top 2 on the board everywhere in like 10, 15, 30 lap and 20 lap averages. Yeah, that's just
the thing
free square.
I don't understand about this team is they've gone out each and every race and have had horrible. And I mean, I don't know if they just don't get the car the way that Kurt Busch would like it before it gets off the truck. But I mean, in the last 4 races, he started 28th, 16th, 21st, and 19th. And it's like, Kurt Busch should be a top 10 starter every week.
Are they only worried about race trim? Are they one of the teams that's constantly doing that? I haven't heard that, but that's the only thing that would make sense. Either that or they just cannot figure qualifying out. Regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe say it could be a Chip Ganassi thing because, as far as Kyle Larson, I mean, he started in the top 10 last week at Martinsville, started 6th, but, before then it was 15th, 31st, 7th, and started 26th in the Daytona 500. So, I mean, he's obviously started 3 out in the top 10. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just a Kurt Busch thing.
Very well could be. Who knows? Anyways, Liehr, it's been a couple weeks since we've had you back. It's been wonderful. I really enjoyed going through the plays. Is there anything else you have to add before we do the wrap up this week and talk about last week's contest and say our goodbyes and get out of here?
Well, we didn't do a burning rubber, but that's okay because the family's upstairs sleeping, so
yeah.
I don't want to get too loud. But burning rubber, Texas style, baby.
Always showing the guns too. Nice. I enjoy when you do the guns up. All right, Liehr. So who won last week's contest? And give us that rundown, and we'll wrap up the show.
All right, brother. So as far as last week at Martinsville, Saline SSC was the number one with a 342.75. He had Ryan Blaney for 69. He was 29% owned. Clint Boyer, who was definitely a good guy to have last week. He scored 54. William Byron, definitely with his, going to the back of the field, 34 points. Then you had Chase Elliott with 100.25, Kevin Harvick with a 49.5, and Daniel Hemrick with a 36. So 342.75. Congratulations to Saline SSC. And also, too, thanks, Andy, for the results. And you can also see those results, too, those season-long league stats over at the fantasydonks.com website. It's listed on there every week. So
we want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe. It's been our pleasure talking some NASCAR with you guys. Liehr, say your goodbyes and get us out of here, buddy.
All right, guys. Well, best of luck this weekend. Definitely looking forward to probably not going to be able to watch it live as my nephew's in town for a soccer tournament, and he's got his birthday going on. So
look at you being a good uncle.
We're going to go to Dave & Buster's, so Jackson will enjoy that. But definitely looking forward to watching this one and keeping track on my phone. But it's going to be interesting plays this week, boys and girls. You're going to have to, in my opinion, strategy this week is obviously you're going to have to grab 2 to 3 of those place differential guys and then mix them in, accordingly with some of those lower end place differential salary savers. So, and of course, do I think there's going to be multiple dominators? I definitely do. I just think that there is a chance, though, that this could be a Jimmie Johnson domination from beginning to end type of race. Like that team, that guy and that team haven't been performing for a long, long time, and Jimmie Johnson needs like a hey, I'm still here kind of race, and this may be the weekend for that.
Yeah, and if you want to fade, I think with his price tag and the probability that he doesn't do anything, it might make an interesting fade because I think people are going to be all over him at that price tag. I mean, it may not be the right play, but at least you'll have nice leverage on the field's ownership percentage if you decide to fade Jimmie this weekend. But, guys, thanks as always for tuning in. Have a great one.
All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching.